what's happening today?
Det är säsongöppnande av nya Duvemåla. Season opening of nya Duvemåla, Karl Oskars house here. And we have invited two musicians to play for us, Erik and Pam. And we have of course coffee and pepparkakor in the house. And then we are going to have little Swedish lessons for whoever want to be in. And I have a quiz also for them. So, and then of course the grand tour of the house and the grand tour.
When is that happening?
No, there are people in there taking care of you if you want to go in.
So you're going right now?
Yeah.
Check that out.
Yeah, thank you. Now you have to start another.
Well, and who are you?
Well, we are Longtime and Flat. The musicians for today.
I see, and what are you playing?
I'm playing a mandolin and Pamela Longtime's playing a fiddle.
Often called a violin.
Yes.
And would you be playing any traditional Swedish music today?
Yes, that was a traditional Swedish tune called Life in the Finnish Woods. About the area of Sweden that borders up on Finland where the big woods are. And a lot of people, including Sven's first wife, were from that area.
Great. Well, carry on.
Thank you.
Det är rätt typiskt där som en svensk husgran från sekelskiftet. Färgen är då inte, där är ju definitivt svensk färg. Men han kanske inte hade kvar lite faluröd kvar. Han blev med slut på faluröd efter verkstaden eller fram.
Hey, what's going on in here?
Oh, what's going on? Well, here.
Well, thank
See
you.
for yourself.
They have an upstairs.
There.
This looks like my grandma's stove.
You gonna rustle up some grub for us?
Yeah. He's a good cook.
We'll
so.
do some pancakes.
Swedish pancakes, by any chance?
Oh,
Sure.
I suppose. Yeah.
And what fruit goes good with Swedish
Strawberries.
Lingonberry.
Lingonberries,
Welcome to the Karl Oskar house.
Well, hello. Yes, hi,
Happy to
Carla.
have you today.
And what's happening today?
But today is our grand opening for the year. Last year we weren't able to be open at all because of the COVID. The only visitors we had were the Karl Oskar ambassadors, and they didn't even get to come in the house. So this year we're starting it off with music in the backyard and coffee in the shed. We're welcoming people. Marilyn Carlson and I here to greet and tell the
Yes.
story of Karl Oskar.
I'll tell you about the organ.
Yes,
Okay.
Marilyn has a wonderful story about
All
the
right.
organ.
My great-grandfather came to America in 1869, and when he had been in Sweden, he was trained as a carpenter. And he had made furniture, and he also had put together organs. Well, the family, the Lynn family.
Hello, Karl Lynn is my great-great-grandfather on my mother's side of the family. Karl Lynn first built this house over by Lynn Lake, and later it was moved here in, many years later. Karl was my mother's grandfather. Joseph was his son, and Joseph was my mother's father.
And what was your mother's name?
My mother's name was Marion Lynn. She was the youngest of 8 girls of Joseph Lynn, Joseph and Selma Lynn.
And then how many children did your mother have?
My mother had 3 children, 2 boys and a girl.
Would you be the girl of the trio?
Yes, that is correct.
Well, thank you for letting us know that you are part of the Lynn heritage here.
Thank you. I'm very proud of it.
Well, the family, the Lynn family, had heard of that my great-grandfather could work with the organs, and they were going to have a party, and so they sent the children to fetch my great-grandfather over in Center City. And my great-grandfather asked them, "How did you get here?" And they said, "We skated." And so he thought, okay, I'm going to come across the lake also. And he fell through. And he managed to somehow get himself out. He must have had some kind of tool or something. And he did get to the house, and they tried to warm them up and give them warm clothes, and he did whatever he did with the organ. He did not make this organ. But the fact that my great-grandfather, Gustav Strand, touched this means something to me. Yes.
It is a pump organ, I take it.
Yes. Yes. And it's not. Oh,
Not in service.
it's not in working order now.
Well, the house was built in 1862, and it was located, the Linds lived about a half a mile, quarter of a mile up the road. And when Moberg was here in 1948, he saw this house. He was doing research and was on his way down to Gladder Cemetery, which was the first pioneer Swedish cemetery in Minnesota. He spotted this house up the road in very poor repair and said, that's going to be Karl Oskar's third home in Minnesota. The first was a sod house, the second was a log home, and then this home was built from boards, and it's tamarack from the woods from this original farm down the road. And in 1995, following the Lindstrom Centennial, a group of really hardworking volunteers moved this home. The Linds, or the Jerry Holt, thank you, donated this home to the Lindstrom Historical Society, and they moved it down the road, and it's built a basement and just refurbed as much as they could to make it still the natural form that it was. And since then we've been welcoming people. In 1996, the King and Queen of Sweden were here for the grand opening celebration. And there were over 1,000 people here that day. And since then we've been welcoming people from May until through September. And this is the original home. This is the living room area. The cupboard is original to the home. The fold-out table is original to the home. And the organ, as Marilyn said.
Excuse me.
And then also this settee is original to the home.
And the cradle.
And the cradle in the baby's room here.
Okay.
And this was Christina's bedroom. And Christina, her bedroom, she was ill for many years, and her bedroom was located so she could see the astrakhan tree, the apple tree, out of her bedroom window. And when Swedish visitors get off of the buses when they come, when we normally had tours, the first thing they want to see is where's the astrakhan tree, because they've all read the books and they've seen the movies and know all about the immigrant story. We've even had people come here claiming that they were their own relatives when they're fictional characters. So this is the baby's bedroom, and then the kitchen, which was a fire, so it was larger at one point in time. And upstairs is an original loom that was in the home in bits and pieces, and it was restored by one of our volunteers. So we welcome you to, we have a shed across the way that was donated to us from Gamble Garden when they built their new facility years ago, and we use that to serve coffee. So we have fika for coffee and treats out there going for us today, and in the backyard is a musical group playing.
I understand you're re-identifying the Historical Society.
Yes. The Lindstrom Historical Society in this past year has done some reorganization. So we have decided and worked with Chisago County Historical Society, and we are now the Friends of the Karl Oskar House. And our goal is to just keep telling the Karl Oskar story. Our mission was really more focused on just this house and the Karl Oskar story versus the Lindstrom big Historical Society. So we're so lucky to have the Chisago County Historical Society in downtown Lindstrom now, and they tell the story of the county wider, and it's just a really neat place to visit if you haven't been there.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's walk into Christina's bedroom and see what that's like. So here's Christina's bedroom. This is an accordion that came from Sweden by way of Norway, and a family picture that has the accordion with it. And this is like a Sunday company dress outfit. So most of the clothes that were it wouldn't be an everyday clothes. This would be, you'd go to church on Sunday and then you'd come home and this would be your outfit that you would wear to plan on guests dropping in, because in those days people just dropped in on you and you had fresh baking going and you were able to entertain them. So we've got the oil lanterns, of course, which were the means of light and with no electricity. We've got curling irons, which heated on the wood stove, and then you burned your hair with these. And a shaving set, and this is a clock. And this is the Lord's Prayer in Swedish that was donated by the company that actually moved this house to this spot. So we were lucky to have that. Underneath the bed is the porta potty, the commode.
A sign of a good bedroom.
Sign of a good bedroom. And when we have the second graders come to visit, we always say that would be usually the responsibility of a child their age to empty the porta potty in the morning, or the commode.
And they all go, ooh,
Yes.
yeah, right.
This is the baby's nursery room. And we have some baptismal or some little toddler outfits here. We know that often little boys even wore dresses as toddlers. They were running around the yard in those old pictures that you see. This cradle is also original to the home, and there's names on the wall of who actually were babies that were in it. A high chair. The trunks that came from Sweden are here. And if when the immigrants came on the ships, they had their trunks was all they had to carry all their belongings in. Just imagine trying to pick what you would be bringing. But if your trunk was rounded on the top, it was more likely to be stacked on the top. So you were actually able maybe to obtain your things when you were traveling, to have access to them rather than being buried in the bottom of a pile. This was actually donated by Alice Mortensen just a few years ago before she passed away. And probably isn't exactly period.
Alice was such a big part of this, wasn't she?
Word, yes. Yeah.
And John, too.
And John. So we going in the kitchen?
Sure. Yeah.
So this is the kitchen area of the Karl Oskar house, and the wood stove is one that was donated by someone. And I remember being little and my aunt allowing me to put wood into the stove. I was like 4 years old, and it was a treacherous thing to do, but it was kind of an honor to do that. We have a kitty that stays underneath the stove for warmth, and then all the old appliances and utensils. These are the sticks were designed to mix things. So you'd have in your homemade mixing bowl, you'd have, that would be your beater instead of your electric beater now. So we just have a lot of appliances, and it's fun to look at them with children and compare what their kitchen appliances are and what the kitchen appliances are here. Quite a bit of difference.
Yes.
And out on the table, you'll Sven has the iron that's dated. It's from the 1700s. It's early. And then just the wash. We have a washing corner here, where you pump your water outside, of course, from a pump, and then bring it in, and here's the Navy Fells naphtha that you would use to scrub your clothes, and then on the scrubber and hang them out to dry. And in the winter, you'd hang them by the stove in the kitchen to hopefully dry.
Yes.
So.
Let's take just a quick trip upstairs.
Rickety steps.
Yeah.
This is the loom. that was original to the home, and it was, as I said, in pieces, and it was restored by one of our volunteers. It's just an amazing instrument. And Gloria Peterson is a former art teacher. She's one of our volunteers, and Gloria regularly comes and weaves when we have guests here. So it's just fun to see her interact with this. She's very artistic. She's made some amazing things.
This is the real deal, isn't
some
it?
of the rugs on the floor were made by Marilyn.
Ah.
And then in the corner we've got spinning wheels and other fabric instruments that people use to create their wool. And this would have been the upstairs. It's open ceiling, so it was never finished. And this is where the children slept. During the summer it was a good place to be, but in the winter you don't want to be up here. We've got the long johns hanging there. This is a youth bed. Another lantern. Quilts. When clothes were worn, they were never like we dump clothes. They were always recycled. So this is made from like suit coats that were people's clothing that was too many holes in it, so you couldn't wear it yourself. So you cut it up and made other things out of it.
Beginning of recycling.
Beginning of recycling. And then another commode under the bed, so we needed more of those. But
yeah.
It's a very hot place in the summer.
Oh, I can imagine, yeah. And what do we have on this desk here?
A multitude of old instruments. We've got like shoe form.
Whoa, that is solid iron,
That
isn't
is
it?
solid iron. A root beer tapper, a bottle tapper, several things that are quite used. Another curling iron. We were discussing this a couple weeks ago. We don't know what this is.
That's a nail puller.
It's a nail puller?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. This is a cooker for, we put the toast and the stuff in, and the bedpan again.
Sure.
We're focused on toilets. So.
Well, it's a lovely room up here. Now I can just imagine kids watching somebody do that loom.
Do the loom, yes.
It's got to be
It's
fascinating.
wonderful. Yeah. Yeah, and we have given kids hunks of wool that I had to play with because then they come to realize how it becomes fabric or how it becomes the makings of something.
Now that is actually from a friend of ours down in Iowa called Dwight Lamb, who just turned 87 2 weeks ago. And we've known him for a long time, but he was rediscovered by some Danish musicians because one of his CDs that had a couple of Danish tunes that he learned from his granddad got over to Denmark, and Christian Boogie picked up the CD and he said, wait a minute, I know these tunes, where did they come from? And between he and Mette Jensen, they ended up corresponding and then coming over to the States numerous times to research and play with Dwight, and got the music back to a wider audience and also back to Denmark, because while some of these tunes, like this one, was known in Denmark, a lot of them were lost. They knew the titles, but when his grandfather emigrated to the U.S., a lot of the tunes disappeared for a number of years, and so, you know, they knew about them, but they didn't know anybody that played them. So that's what happened. So now they're being played again, and when was it? Was it 2018 that Dwight got the National Heritage?
That's right.
Yeah, he in 2018 Dwight was awarded the Smithsonian National Fellowship Heritage Award.
They have a very unique tune that a Swede played for Al Capone. Do you want that piece for your little film?
I think we should hear the Al.
Yeah.
You already played it? Or?
Yeah, they have already played it. But
Okay.
Eric, can you tell the story connection there?
Sure.
Now, do you talk too?
Do I talk to?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes.
Because now he just did a great explanation. We'd love to hear you say something.
Oh, well, I wanted to mention, actually, that this last tune dates back to 1836. So, it says in here anyways.
These sound like dance. Is there a dance that goes with this?
Well, that was just a polka.
Yeah, that was
I
a
mean,
polka.
it's, you know, similar to the polka done today. It's just, you know, somewhat. It's interesting because a lot of while we do play some tunes that are a dance style that isn't necessarily danced a lot in America, most of these tunes are schottisches and polkas and waltzes. A lot of what came over here and survived are what they could play for not only themselves but other immigrant groups. And so, since the Germans schottished and polka'd and waltzed, that's what became popular. That's why, you know, certain tunes sort of were passed down from, and why some communities, you know, kept doing it. There are you know, German bands that will play Swedish tunes just because that was popular with, if you wanted to work, especially you know, around the start of the 20th century, you know, you basically played what the people wanted to hear.
Okay.
Okay, I can use another cup of coffee.
Yeah, but
Okay.
yeah, because I know, you know, we go to the halftime rec to watch the Irish band. They're always new to people that would do the
Flowers in, right? Somebody put flowers in.
Yeah. That must have been go.
Carla?
Do you drink coffee black, Sven?
I drink it black. When I drink coffee, I drink coffee. Nothing else. Black and strong, and then we have to have and pepparkaka. And pepparkaka. Pepparkaka.
And kaka. Oh.
Pepparkaka.
And there he goes, Mr. Coffee.
This is a shed where it's a storage place and a place for us to have coffee in the fall when it gets cooler. This building was given to us by the Gamma Garden in Scandia. It used to be their main building down there, but then they built the big new building, and so we just use it as a work shed. We use it a lot when it's cool because it's a nice place to come in and warm, but we usually have coffee here. This building is wired for electricity, of course it was down there, so we have lots of outlets and stuff here.
Is there a cadre of volunteers that take care of this house?
We have a small group now. It's unfortunate that all the old timers that speak Swede are gone. You know, John and Alice Mortensen and the Gustafsons and Clarence, they were out here a lot, you know. But those folks are all not living anymore, and there's not so much interest in my age group here, you know. But we like to spend time out here. We were out here this morning because we knew that there would be lots of people here, so we cleaned up a little bit. I like to garden, and I like to do flowers and all that sort of stuff, so I got zinnias and shrubs and lilacs and stuff that we planted. When we came home from Arizona one time, several years ago, all this stuff in here was just piled in a big heap in here. So we decided that we could use this a little better. So Charlie John made some shelves, and he did some other things here, and we hung this stuff, all this old tools and stuff. Charlie John put in the stove so it's warm here, and
That's functional.
yeah, we spend a lot of time here. And of course, when we have meetings, we usually come out here because we can sit at the table. So,
How many people are in the Friends of the Karl Oskar house, would you say?
well, there's about a dozen of us, so that are active, that participate regularly, and we're hoping that there will be more now with the new push. And of course, Sven gives us good impetus with he has a lot of ambition and lots of stories, so lots of ideas. So I think that the things will be it'll be fine. We're disappointed last year wasn't open at all, and now this year this is the first day it's open, and we're anticipating that we'll have some more groups. So.
Now, are you Swedish by any chance?
My grandpa was an immigrant. He and his mother died, and his dad remarried, and they didn't get along well with their stepmother, so they arranged to have my grandpa, who was 11, and his sister was 13. They came to Lafayette, Minnesota, to live with her mothers, who had died. Her brother was established there and did well in farming. So there was 9 in the family, so the 2 more made 11, and the guy was really prosperous, his uncle, and when they got older, all the other boys got farms, and they needed wells on those farms. So my uncle bought a well rig, and he sent my grandpa as a young, probably 18 years old, out with a team of horses to drill wells for everybody, and that's what he did from the early 1900s till 1942. He was in the well business. So, but that wasn't here. That was in Renville County, up near a little town called Buffalo Lake, Minnesota.
Yeah. How did they power the drill?
The horses worked in a circle. They drove around in a circle, and they drove a rotary thing, and that was the thing that made it go up and down, and kind of an auger-like thing is that's all they really did years ago. So,
yeah. So what are you doing with your time other than volunteering for the Friends of the Karl Oskar
we
house?
volunteer at the Chisago County History Museum uptown. Betty and I spent all day there Saturday, and that was a lot of fun. We had a lot of people there, and we're happy that it's open now. And that's a wonderful exhibit too. That Lindstrom is the head of it there, and Betty and another lady do the decorations, or what do you call them, vignettes, or the little displays there. There are probably a dozen different displays, and they change them regularly to keep the museum fresh, and so that it isn't the same pictures that you look at every time. Some of them are permanent exhibits, but a lot of them are changed regularly. So the Chisago County Historical Society is located right downtown Lindstrom. There usually is a big flag when they're open, but they're not open every day, but most days. They're closed on Wednesdays and Thursdays. No, Monday, Tuesday, Friday, Saturday they're open. And there's always lots of room for the tour. There's others volunteers there. There's a big research library with we have a lot of family histories, a lot of church histories, school histories, interesting books to read through, and maps and so on about the immigration, and and then there's a wonderful little gift store, little boutique that Lynn tries to buy things that you can't get anyplace else in Lindstrom, and then of course the big museum with the displays of unusual things. It's right down on Highway 8 going easterly towards Wisconsin, and just stop in sometime and visit us.
Can you say something in Swedish to close this off?
No. I can tell a story though. Unfortunately, I only know I listen to and I hear a few words. I didn't learn from John and Alice Mortensen, for example, that spoke a lot of Swede. But one time we had a big tour group of Swedes coming here, and we always try to meet them when they get off the bus and greet them and say hello to them. And I stayed until the last guy came off, and he was dressed a little differently than all the other, mostly males were in this group. He had a little hat and a suit coat and so on. And I greeted him, and he said to me, "Do you speak any Swedish?" And I said, "No, unfortunately, I only know one phrase in Swedish." "Oh yeah, what's that?" he said. "Var finns det öl?" Oh, and he laughed, and he got a big kick out of that. "Where's the beer?" And it turns out he was the governor of Uppsala. That's like our governor of Minnesota, you know, and he was a big politician, but he really enjoyed that, so that was a fun day.
Now, was it true Al Capone was part Swedish?
That I highly doubt, but the way the story goes is from Magnus Gustafsson, who is a Swedish musician who has been over here a number of times, has taught a number of times up at Nisswa. And he said that he got this tune from a gentleman named Ivar, who, when he was very young, was in the Chicago area working as an ice boy, and he would deliver ice to Al Capone. And I don't know how this happened, but somehow Al Capone, who liked music, I mean, if a lot of people have realized over the years that Al Capone loved to have music around, he always had a gramophone or other stuff, even in his prison cells. There's almost always a gramophone in his prison cell. He found out that Ivar played music, and Ivar played this waltz, and supposedly he played it a number of times for Al Capone, and Ivar, after he moved back to Sweden before World War II, called this tune Al Capone's favorite waltz. And whether any of this is really true or not, you know, this is what Magnus is told, and Magnus has said this is the story that he was told. He is not necessarily holding it up to being fact, but it's the story. And just to let folks know, what was Ivar's ranch in Sweden was called something like the Wolf's Head. So it was a little bit out of the ordinary for even for a Swede at the time. So.
And we learned this from Paul Wilson.
Yes, and the group Skull Music.
Who's run the Nisswa Stamina course for over 20 years.
Yes.
Does it have an official name?
The tune?
Yeah.
The tune? The tune's Capone is Al Capone's waltz, or Al Capone's favorite waltz. That is the official name for it. So.
I notice a lot of repetition. Do you just go back and repeat, and then do you vary a little bit here and there, or?
Yeah. Sometimes it's even intentional.
Yeah. a lot of these tunes were learned by, orally, and so they didn't learn big, huge sonatas or anything, memorize them. They were passed on, father to son or to daughter. So, usually there's 2-bar, an 8-bar measure repeated. So, oftentimes.
And then if it is a dance, I mean, people want to dance long. So
Right.
you just keep playing till they fall over, I suppose.
Right.
Yeah, sometimes, some groups, like on a lot of things, it depends on the group you're playing for.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're playing for more senior people, you don't want to play for 20 minutes. This isn't like, who's going to be the last one standing?
Yes.
You have to be careful to your audience, especially if you ever want to play for them again.
What instruments would say a traditional band have? Say at a barn dance, in 1880 or something. At a big one where they'd have multiple instruments.
Big one would actually, you'd often have just like 2 fiddles.
Yeah.
That would be very common, just like 2 fiddles just playing the night.
Yep.
Yeah, sometimes they'd play together. If you were playing all night, you'd start out with 2, then one would play for a while, the other would take a break, then that one would take over, the first one would take a break.
Yep. They didn't have drum sets. They
didn't have drums, they often didn't have guitars or mandolins or anything like that. That all came later. The first thing that a lot of the bands would get when they became available was the accordion. Because the accordion was often not too expensive and was loud.
Yeah.
And so now, I'm not talking the keyboard accordion like you see everybody play these days. These were button accordions, often designed to play in 1 or 2 keys.
Is a button accordion a concertina?
No, a concertina is smaller. A button accordion looks like an accordion, but instead of where the keys would be, you just have buttons, 1 or 2 rows. A concertina is flat on each end and has usually like 20 to 30 buttons on each end. And they were designed, the best ones were made and still are made in England, and they are often used on ships. So they would often be used for dancers, especially if you were doing military stuff.
Yeah. Well, what about squeeze box? Does that have anything that you squeeze in and out with bellows?
Well, a squeeze box, yeah, that's anything. That could be a concertina, that could be an accordion. So,
do you play accordion?
No, he's still married.
Yeah, I'm still happily married.
What a great punchline.
Yes, that is good. Thank you.
Well, it's sounding really great. Would you introduce yourself again?
Oh, okay. I'm Pamela Longtime America.
And I'm Eric Platt. Longtime and Platt. We actually got started before she got married, so we're too lazy to change the name.
Right. We have too many fans.
Well, thank you for making it a great day.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.